Good morning, happy Wednesday. Welcome to Live with Liz. Hope you're having a good week. It's hump day. Can't believe August is gone. How did that happen? I don't know. And so for the last few weeks, I might have mentioned that we had some news to share with everyone, and that is that we are expanding. Firm Forward has added a new principal consultant in Latin America. We are very excited to announce this today. Her name is Maria Fernanda Cornejo, and she joins us from Quito, Ecuador, where she previously had her own legal marketing consultancy. So she has law firm background experience, and we're very excited to welcome her to the team. And Fair, if you're watching this, welcome aboard. If you're not, I'll harass you later. So moving along, today's topic is event sponsorship. And I mean, for anyone who knows me, you know I'm a conference junkie. Maybe I'm a recovering addict to conferences because COVID forced us to stay home. But I am still planning every single conference I'm going to attend. And we still have our massive list of IP and legal events. It's expanded well beyond IP at this point, that has recently been updated and is now available. So if you want our famous list, send an email to solutions@firmforward.com. and we'll send it to you. Or just drop a comment and we'll send it to you if you drop a comment too. So very exciting stuff happening because conferences are coming back, y'all. I can't believe I just said y'all. Okay, but event sponsorship. There are a lot of reasons that a law firm might invest in sponsoring an event. Doesn't necessarily have to be a legal event either. It could be a community event, charity, educational. Most of the time, people think of event sponsorship as being important for marketing and name recognition and visibility. And that's true. That is usually why people do it. It's usually considered a marketing expense as opposed to a business development expense. Hey, Ahu. Good morning, Leah. So it's something that the marketing department usually considers. Also, I imagine you are completely bombarded, maybe even on the daily, with offers to sponsor different events. There are other reasons that you might want to sponsor an event. Maybe you are trying to get exclusive access to something or have exclusivity in a position. Maybe that visibility is meant to prevent your competition from having that level of visibility. Maybe you're trying to build rapport with the organizer, which can be important, and which we'll probably come back to that point in a minute. But all of these reasons are completely legitimate. Then comes the problem of figuring out, well, I know that there's value in sponsoring events, but which events? Why? So you have to make a determination as to whether or not a sponsorship of an event is one legitimate. Is there a legitimate event happening? And there are different levels of legitimacy, especially when it comes to events happening in the legal industry. And then once you determine it's legitimate, the second step is to figure out whether or not it's worth the investment. Is it a good fit for your firm? Is it accomplishing the goals that you've set out to reach a specific audience, to have a lasting impression? Maybe you won't even know if you make that investment just one time. So you want to make sure that if you're thinking of sponsoring a new event, that you're considering doing it for at least 2 or 3 years so that you can really measure the benefit and the value of it in the end. And determining whether or not something is legitimate. What I mean by multiple levels here, there was a researcher, a legal practitioner actually in China. And if I can find the paper she wrote, I'll share it with everyone, but it's been several years. The takeaway though was that basically if an event organizer is not connected to the industry of the event they're organizing in a meaningful way, that there's very little value in the event. I 100% agree with that. So you often find that there are these organizers of events that have absolutely no connection to the industry. I don't find it to be 100% true that there's no value to them, because there are these organizers out there like Informa, for example, or Marcus Evans, or you might have heard of there are quite a few out there that you're probably getting opportunity and requests from and invitations to that come with a substantial financial investment. I find those to be more expensive. But these are organizers that have been organizing these types of events for a very long time. They have researchers who are only focused on organizing these events. So while they don't have the direct connection to industry, it might still occasionally be something worth looking into because of how good they are at just organizing the event, pulling it off, bringing people together in general, and making sure it counts. You have to be very careful with those though. And here it is. If an event organizer is offering you a paid speaking position, that's a red flag. I would run away from that, generally speaking. Additionally, if they are selling the keynote speaking position, no, there's really no legitimacy there in the event when it comes to business development. Morning, Elizabetta. If you do get an invitation to pay for a keynote speech, unless you're doing some sort of maybe Toastmasters and you need a venue for practicing your public speaking, probably not worth it for you in the end when it comes to your actual business development and marketing goals. And these events, they have some crossover, right? So it's a marketing investment when you're doing a sponsorship. But if you have this face-to-face opportunity that comes along with it, that's a business development event. So a little bit of crossover and confusion there. So once you've determined that it's legitimate, maybe the organizer is actually, for the law firms I work with, maybe a bar association, which are heavily involved in the organization. Maybe an academic institution is hosting an event and you want to improve your relationship with them. Maybe you are looking at a long game with that relationship. So maybe you want to, for example, offer intellectual property services to a university, and the university is hosting an event. There could be value in sponsorship because you may have access to the individuals who are decision makers at the events they host. So these are all things to consider when deciding whether or not to invest in a certain event. Now, even once you have established that these things are important, there's still like this word of caution out there, because sometimes there are companies, maybe publicly traded companies or individual decision makers. And this, I think mostly you would hear about this or see this in the United States, but this notion that if your firm is sponsoring events and has the money to just kind of throw around and advertise and get all this visibility, that maybe you're frivolous and maybe your legal fees are going to be too high for them. Now, who would have ever thought that, right? I'm looking, oh, fancy sign, thanks for the invitation to the happy hour. And then somebody is saying, oh, well, they're too expensive for me because they host events. That may be a subconscious thought. Maybe it is something that's just, just spoken out and about in the US. I've never heard that outside of the US market, that sentiment, but it is something to be aware of and something to consider. I think mostly that applies to maybe the B2C law firms out there that are hosting community events. The local golf tournament maybe doesn't have the same value as something else that is more community oriented or can create goodwill with your social standing, something charity related, those sorts of things that give you a different feeling when you see people out there. Now, there are organizers for IP law firms, for IP, the industry at large, that are bar associations, and they have all these events that can really help you network specifically with corporate legal departments and law firms that send work around the world. And you can really get to know people at these events and have access to exclusive side events within an event if you're a sponsor. Maybe you would also get the list of attendees that could be valuable for you for communication purposes and for a longer campaign than just the sponsorship of the actual event at the time. So when you're deciding whether or not it's worth the investment for you, you want to think about the whole picture, what the long-term campaign looks like. Are you going to advertise this event that's going to have an additional expense? Are you going to build a social media campaign around it? Can you publish content around the event that enhances your credibility and gives you additional visibility when you're at the event? Say you're trying to set meetings with certain individuals at an event and you want to invite them to a specific dinner that you get to host as a sponsor. So you have to evaluate all of the different perks that are available with the event sponsorship opportunity and see how that plays into the broader investments that you're making in marketing and business development for your firm. It's not always easy to make that determination, but if you spend a few minutes doing a little bit of research and you spend some time considering what the overall budget is, really, I like to do this a year in advance and identify key events that make sense for you. You can't do them all. Don't try. Even the biggest firms out there don't necessarily do them all. Now, when it comes to specifics, there are opportunities generally to negotiate these sponsorships. So for most of the events that are adjacent to the industry, so this is going back to that legitimacy question, we have the organizers of events that charge for speaking, that don't really have a connection to the industry. They don't really have a track record of good attendeeship. They can't really answer your questions about a lot of things. They just give you general information. Hiya. So the legitimacy is a question, but then there are the real organizers of events that are related to your law firm's practice, that are targeted to your audience, that are completely legitimate. And then in the middle, you have these industry adjacent organizers. A lot of times these are from the media companies, and these are legitimate organizers, and there could be additional reasons you want to build rapport with them. Maybe a rankings publisher is hosting an event that you may need access to, and you may find that they have an audience that makes sense for your firm. So it might make more sense with these industry adjacent events to go ahead and make an investment in them for a lot of reasons that you might not have considered otherwise. So if you've got a publisher hosting an event and offering you sponsorship, it's worth considering. Now, when it comes to those specific events, you'll get the pricing, and those are often negotiable. I would never pay a rack rate for one of those events. I would take a look and say, these aspects of the sponsorship are really all I'm after, but these extras that they're trying to throw in to justify a higher price, I don't need those. So I'm going to go back to the organizer and say, I want to sponsor this event. I see a lot of value here, but let's have a conversation about what I really need and what I'm willing to invest. And 100% of the time, they have been open to those conversations with me. I've never had a problem being able to negotiate with those. Now, there are other organizers of the most legitimate events out there for law firms that are completely opposed to any sort of negotiation. The International Bar Association comes to mind, right? Because the IBA hosts these enormous events with lots of sponsorship opportunities, but those sponsorships are in such high demand that they don't have to negotiate anything. They don't care. They say, this is the rate, this is what we're offering, take it or leave it. We don't have time to negotiate. We have too much interest in this. And there are others that charge a really high price for sponsorship, but because they've established the value and they know the value is there, and they know law firms will invest in it. Now, COVID has kind of thrown a wrench in this, because they lost a lot of sponsorship and investment for events that had to be canceled or postponed or turned virtual, where people were concerned that there wouldn't be any sort of value in those whatsoever. And actually, with the virtual events, I have found little value in the sponsorship opportunities when evaluating them after they've happened. Now, that could still be changing, and maybe there are other reasons to continue your investment. Maybe it's to hold your place for the next in-person event. Maybe it's to support an organization that has really been helpful for you in terms of business development and marketing throughout the years, and you want to ensure the continuation of this organization's success, and you want to be a part of it. Maybe you even want participation in the organization itself, and showing up in this big way of sponsoring and providing an investment for them could be the way to do that. So a lot of different things to consider when determining whether an event is legitimate and whether it's worth your investment. And if you ever have questions about how that works and about evaluating event sponsorships, or even putting together an entire marketing plan that includes event sponsorships, give us a shout. We're happy to help. And if you have a one-off question, we usually just answer those. So just let us know. And yeah, I'm sorry for all of the spam email that everybody gets. I promise I will never send spam email to you from Firm Forward that says, please sponsor my event. I won't do that. And on that note, I hope everyone has a great rest of your week. And I'll see you next time on, oh wait, maybe I won't see you next time. Shana Tova to all the people who celebrate, like me, New Year's at this time of year. So the next few Wednesdays are all holidays. And so instead of being live, we'll be recorded and hopefully still stream at our regular time. That is our goal. But if you see me missing in action, I'll be back in just a few weeks live at our regular Live with Liz. So everybody have a great holiday season if you're partaking of that this time around. And if not, I'll see you in a few weeks on Live with Liz. Take care, everybody.